Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene recently made a very interesting argument in favor of freeing the January 6th Capitol insurrectionists. Take a look.
Here we have people being held in prison that were at the Capitol on January 6th. They're being treated like political prisoners of war, but yet we have President Biden and Kamala Harris, don't forget her, hold her accountable, and this entire administration that allowed terrorists that will chop your head off, throw gay people off of buildings, that they will cover women in burqas to be and shove them in homes and treat them like slaves, never to be seen from again. This is the administration that allowed these people to go free and take over the entire country, and it's unbelievable. It's an embarrassment. I believe when the people of this country step up and get involved, and you really find out what's going on, you can stop it and make a difference. And then we don't have to see some old man on television leaving Americans over there in some horrid country like Afghanistan. And we don't have to hear about refugees being brought into our country, leading to the likes of Ilhan Omar becoming members of Congress one day.
And here we go. So we start with, let's get our own homegrown terrorists out of prison, and then ends with some good old-fashioned Islamophobia. I know. Look, there's not really that good of a comparison to make between January 6th insurrectionists and the Taliban. The Taliban are incredibly terrible. So, all right, we, I guess, can agree to that. The Taliban's terrible. And yes, January 6th Capitol insurrectionists, not quite as bad as the Taliban. Fair enough. Fair enough. But when you look at it, they kind of have a lot in common when you think about it. So, for one, the Taliban doesn't like abortion. No, neither does the right wing. Taliban hates science and vaccines. Oh, would you look at that? We have a huge anti-vaxxer movement made up of mainly conservatives. The Taliban want religion in the government and in schools. Well, shockingly, so does the right wing. Interesting. They both do believe in violence. Men should rule over women, and they should, women should cover up their bodies if they don't want to get sexually assaulted. And so, oh, wow. The comparison, like the things that they have in common, just a lot. Wow. Did you know that they also believe in the same God? Allah is just another name for God, after all, even though they believe in technically different prophets. In fact, I am seeing a lot of white nationalists and Republicans actually cheering on the Taliban lately after this happened. Now, interesting. See, so I tend to think that if you're cheering on the Taliban for taking over Afghanistan, you're not a good person. Now, I'm against a war. I thought we should pull out. I still agree that Biden actually did the right thing in pulling out because here's the thing. No matter when we pulled out, no matter when we would have left, Afghanistan still would have been a complete and utter shit show. All right. So that said, this was originally arranged by Donald Trump. Again, I give him credit for that. I think he did the right thing. Yes, there was no exit plan under Trump. There was no real exit plan under Biden. And those are fair criticisms. Those are fair critiques. That said, now you have the people that supported pullout under Donald Trump now attacking Biden for the pullout and are cheering on the Taliban. All right, so let me give you some examples. Lauren Boebert, here's what she tweeted. The Taliban are the only people building back better. A white nationalist commentator on Telegram said, quote, to be honest, the Taliban is epic. The U.S. had to invade in the early 2000s and stay over 20 years, spending $1 trillion and dozens of American lives to hold them back. As soon as we left, the Taliban took over the whole country in like 12 hours. LMAO. I mean, all that stuff was right, except for the Taliban is obviously not epic, and there's nothing funny about this. There's very serious consequences that are going to happen now as a result of, the Taliban taking over. Now, those are just the mild ones. This one gets, some of these get increasingly anti-Semitic. In fact, there was a neo-Nazi blog not surprised, that said this: for those unaware, NATO is pulling out of Afghanistan after 20 years of war with the Taliban and losing. This should, in fact, be celebrated as a victory. A victory against who? Jewish-controlled world. Here we go. They added, while the Taliban does have its faults, they are nonetheless a marked enemy of the Jews. Of course. Of course. They continued. Another reason to celebrate this victory for the Taliban is yet another example that our enemy, the system, is but a paper tiger. There is also a Proud Boys linked account that posted this: if white men in the West had the same courage as the Taliban, we would not be ruled by Jews currently. On and on and on. The anti-Semitic comments continue to roll on. And so they had to do it. Why? Because this is who they are. They celebrated this. I don't celebrate this. I don't think we should have been in there in the first place. But again, no denying that people, especially women, especially girls, will suffer under the Taliban, and it's pretty horrible to think this is fine. But yet, as one points out, and actually commented, well, I celebrate every time the U.S. government is embarrassed. You should too. Now understand that this comes from the same group. Proud Boys enthusiastically backed Donald Trump. Far-right groups, for example, the neo-Nazi marchers back in Charlottesville, overwhelmingly backed Donald Trump. Why? Because, well, they said Trump is against the system. Now, here's the thing. They were, he thought that he was against the system. They thought that Trump was, and were willing to show up to try to overthrow the election to keep Donald Trump into power, right? And so that's who Marjorie Taylor Greene wants released out of jail. The people that showed up on January 6th. And it shouldn't be surprised that there's anti-Semitism linked with this. And look, Marjorie Taylor Greene herself has floated her own anti-Semitic conspiracy theories when she called the wildfires in California possibly the product of Jewish space lasers. Understand that it's part of the underpinning of a lot of the right-wing ideology and even some anti-establishment views. Not all of them, of course. But understand that when the right talks about the establishment or the system, they're actually not talking about what a leftist would talk about. When it's, the system is, of course, the systems that are set up, things like, mandated oppression through the government, through government systems, slavery, or economic systems. They're also not talking about, out of touch old rich people that are still in power, or class systems that, are there in place to stop working people from amassing wealth and power in the government. That's not what the right wing's talking about. The right wing is talking about Jews. That's what it is. So understand that there's a distinction that needs to be made here. So whenever you hear about the establishment from the right wing, we'll ask them what the establishment is. What do you think the establishment is? What are you talking about? Is there a certain question that you're going to ask? So, and if that's not the case, then that's great. Then you might be able to actually work with somebody. Because I don't have a problem working with somebody who's conservative, right? When it comes to, making the country a better place. Obviously, we have different ideas on how to do so. But what's different about that is you can't work with neo-Nazis, racists, people who are members of the KKK, Proud Boys, things like that. Those are not people you can work with. And I would add, I wouldn't honestly work with Boogaloo Boys. That's not something that I'm interested in doing. And so, that said, let's go to a refugee comment, right? Now, the thing, one thing about that is that, of course, a lot of these right-wingers really do hate the idea of taking on refugees from from Afghanistan, running from the Taliban. Now, they say, well, it's because they're Sharia law. But if they were believers in Sharia law, they would stay in Afghanistan under the Taliban, because that's what they're doing. They're leaving because they don't agree with the Taliban. And yet, a lot of right-wingers are saying, well, we shouldn't let them in because they're Sharia law terrorists. The Taliban are bad. But the people escaping them don't want to live under the Taliban. So we should let them come here, right? No. Apparently, according to the far right, they are still deeply distrustful and hateful of immigrants, especially Muslims. Then I finally want to address Greene having suddenly some concern for women and gay people. That's very interesting because, again, when you look at the stuff that she believes in, the policies, she's not in favor of gay marriage. She's definitely not pro-trans, not pro-LGBT+, doesn't want women to have reproductive freedom, and would advise that women live under the Bible and Christianity. Does that sound familiar? Sound familiar? Just change out Christianity with Islam, and you pretty much have the Taliban. So, and on, again, gay people. Oh, I remember, like, going back, because this was always the argument against letting in refugees from Muslim majority countries, right? Oh, well, you know what they do there? They throw gay people off buildings. Okay, yeah, that's horrible. That doesn't mean that they're going to do that here. But her thing is, well, in America, we don't kill gay people. We just relegate them to second-class citizens and deny them basic rights, deny them their basic humanity to love whoever they want to love and get married and do all that stuff and have the same rights. So we're better than them. Well, I mean, I guess it's better than, yeah, obviously it's better than killing them, but that's like a really, really low bar. But as I've said before, when it comes to the far right, there is no bottom to this barrel of awfulness from people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.